Hey guys, good evening. August 14th. Some of you have been asking me for several months to provide some coverage from time to time, or at least one video on Nixxy. The ticker symbol is NIXX. I have no position in this company. I've not even really ever shared any opinions about Nixxy. I have never compared it to another company. I hear people saying, he's comparing my stock to Nixxy. No, I've been very mum on Nixxy because they had some exciting changes that they announced back in May with their leveraging their Oralink subsidiary or a portion of their company. And they had these announcements coming out about new revenue. And I didn't want to comment on Nixxy until the quarterly results came out because hey, sometimes new revenue can lead to new profits. Unfortunately for Nixxy, that was not the case this quarter. And, I try to talk to you guys about learning to decipher headlines and news articles when companies are boasting about revenue, and we are left to assume that it's going to be profitable. I never assume that there's profits. I hope, it's fine to hope, but you should be very careful about making investing decisions based on what I call puff piece PR, talking about increases in revenue until you see that that revenue actually brought positive operating cash flow, positive income onto the income statement. That did not happen on Nixxy, and they just reported their Q2 2025 revenue, massive increase 12 hours ago. So let's just spend a couple minutes. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel on what Nixxy does because there's other people that are doing that, other people promoting the stock. I'm not promoting the stock. I'm going to cover the 10Q with you. Important things for you to know if you are an investor in this company. I don't care what you do with your investment in Nixxy. I'm not urging anybody to buy it. I don't care if you sell it. I'm not short. I don't short stocks. I read filings and interpret them, provide you guys some guidance and some things to look at. And I encourage you to always go read the company documents yourself to make sure you understand everything about a company before you make any investment decision. With that being said, let's look at Nixxy's 10Q for the quarterly period ending June 30th. This filing fresh off the presses. Those of you that are familiar with my channel, you already know the drill. There's a couple of things we can look at as investors just for a quick snapshot, sanity check of the health of a company. And we do this for any company when we're looking at it the first time. You guys throw out a ticker for me on a live stream. We go through this same thing. I'm going to be very fair to Nixxy and look at it just like I do with any other company and give you the natural thoughts that flow from that. Here is our Q2 2025. Let's go to the income statement. Sorry. Q2 2025 income statement. Revenue $13.47 million, a huge increase considering that they only had 1.4 million the previous quarter and a fraction of a million before that. So huge spike in revenue. And that's what I wanted to see from those press releases they were putting out in May. We kind of anticipated that they would have a big jump in revenue, but did that translate into profits? That is what really matters. And when we scroll down here to net income, no, it did not. They lost $4.17 million on the income statement for that quarter, even though they had a several thousand% increase on their revenue. They still lost about the same amount of money as the previous quarter. So, a failure to deliver on profits for Nixxy in Q2 2025. We look next at the shares outstanding just to see if the company has been funding its growth by issuing shares, i.e. dilution. And we can see over the last 12 months, the shares outstanding has grown from 3 million to 19 million. I don't know if they've done any reverse splits. It doesn't matter. Just, functionally here, what we're looking at is a 6x increase in the number of shares outstanding over the last 12 months. And that is obviously not what we want to see. If we're trying to hold this stock, you don't want the company constantly diluting to pay their bills, because that decreases the value of every share that you own. Earnings per share, negative 22 cents, about the same as last quarter, which was negative 30 cents per share. Gross margin, operating margin, and profit margin, free cash flow margin. The gross margin is not even 1%, and then all of the other margins down here are negative. These are not good signs. Not good. Looking over at the balance sheet for Q2, the company has just under $1 million in cash. That is a slight increase from the previous quarter, but down from a few quarters back where they had $2.5 million. Total current assets versus total current liabilities would be what we look at next. That will tell us the working capital, and we always want to see total current assets higher than total current liabilities. We got 1.62 on current assets, 6.52 on total current liabilities. This is pretty bad. Their total current liabilities, the bills they need to pay in the next 12 months, are about 5 times higher than the assets that they have on hand. So that gives us down here a negative working capital of almost $5 million. Not a good scenario to be in. The other thing we want to look at is the shareholders' equity, which would be total assets minus total liabilities. We got 13.25 million minus 6.52 million. So in that case, the shareholders' equity is a positive 6.73 when we subtract total liabilities from total assets. So in that sense, from a shareholders' equity perspective, the balance sheet is okay. But as a shareholder, you should be more worried about the fact that their working capital sucks, that it's a negative $5 million. They are going to need to raise money through issuing more debt or selling more shares or figuring out a way to operate the company profitably, or they are going to be in trouble in terms of their liquidity, their cash, and they will need to raise money by issuing debt or selling shares, or they file bankruptcy. I can't tell you what it'll be. Companies always are going to try and issue debt or sell shares. As long as they can do one or the other, they will do that as long as they can, and try and avoid Chapter 11. So I can't tell you what to expect other than they are going to need money. Looking at the cash flow statement, the quick and dirty thing that you want to look at is what is the operating cash flow. For Nixxy, it was minus $1.19 million. What does that tell me? Kind of think of that as their burn rate for that quarter. If they're burning on average $1 to $2 million of cash per quarter, and then we go back and look at the balance sheet, they have $1 million in cash. That tells me they've got about 1 quarter of cash and they are toast. So I would expect they need to raise money very quickly. If you don't like what I'm saying, I recommend that you use other tools that pros use out there, like dilutiontracker.com. Get you a $75 a month subscription to this website, and you can get more information, including a graphical representation of just how much this company's been diluting. This is a horrible growth curve in the number of issued shares. Shareholders are just getting cremated here on dilution, and they also say that the company has 0.7 months of cash left based on their quarterly cash burn. Not a good position to be in. Dilution Tracker will also tell you about any open offerings that the company has, warrants, convertible notes as well. It looks like they had a offering back in December of 2024, but it says status withdrawn. I'm going to assume that is accurate. They do have a variety of warrants out there. And let's see what else. Warrants. Shelf offering September 2022. So they should have several August, 30 days left on this shelf. I have not looked at any of the filings to see if they've issued all of the shares that they could under this shelf, but that would be something that you would want to understand. And either they'll use this existing shelf to file a new ATM, or they will file a new shelf offering. They're good for 3 years. they will file a new one and another ATM under that shelf. From what I see, guys, this company needs to raise money. I would expect to be diluted in relatively short order. The data here on stockanalysis.com comes from the actual filing itself. We got the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement, and we've already gone through those. So I'm just going to point out to you a couple of other things that I look for when I'm scanning through a 10Q. Obviously, you know, you want to know in general, what does the company do? They have that here. Revenue recognition, Oralink. They talk about their leveraging newly acquired IP and tech from a company called Savatier. That is, I believe, related to the press pieces that they put out in May of 2025. It did increase revenue, unfortunately not profits. Another thing that I want you to be in the habit of looking at if you're dabbling in speculative companies, money-losing companies, I would prefer you just dabble in profitable companies, but you know, many of us like to take a chance on some of these speculative bets. So at least understand what you're investing in. Look for a going concern note and read through it carefully to make sure you understand the situation. Now, I've already given you the situation. We talked about the operating cash flow, the lack of cash on the balance sheet, and the cash burn. And this company is losing a lot of money. Therefore, they do have a going concern risk warning. These are not standard. I hear YouTubers all the time say, oh, everybody's got a going concern warning. No, they absolutely do not. It is a required legal disclosure to you if the company doesn't have enough money to survive 12 months. This is your heads up. Don't sue me, bro, if we go bankrupt. You should never minimize or let anyone on YouTube minimize to you when a company has a going concern warning. It is a serious warning. It is a warning that they are going to need to raise money through issuing more debt or selling more shares, or they will need to shut the business down. Again, I can't tell you for any given company which path they go down, but we know they will typically try and raise debt or sell shares as long as they can. As long as you're willing to buy it, or someone out there on the market is willing to buy it, they'll keep doing that. And when that golden goose is cooked, then that's when they file Chapter 11. But hopefully, you know, hopefully Nixxy can grow their profits and avoid that fate. I can't tell you what the outcome will be. What I can tell you is a going concern disclosure is very serious, and don't let anybody lie to you and minimize that this is not a problem when this shows up in a 10Q. It is not a standard disclosure. It is a disclosure required to let you know how seriously effed this company is. Another good section to make sure you understand on any 10Q is the notes about loans payable. And I you know, quickly read through all of these. There's nothing horrible that jumps out at me. And I would expect that a company that needs to raise cash is going to be issuing promissory notes and bonds, selling debt, whatever they need to do to try and get some money in. And a lot of times those people that they're selling debt to get bonus warrants. And if you're seeing warrants being handed out with debt, I want you to think of that as future dilution and make sure you understand if there's a lockup period on those warrants and under what conditions can they exercise them, because that is future potential dilution to you. And maybe the final thing, just for a quick and dirty look at a 10Q when you're trying to do a 10-minute assessment about a company, I want you to go find the note in any 10Q which talks about subsequent events. These are events that happened after the close of the quarter, which was June 30th, up until the date of the filing, which was August 13th. So anything that happened between July 1st and August 13th will be disclosed here. That way you don't got to wait 90 more days to get the next update. You've already got a few updates here. It says on July 29th, the company filed a registration statement on Form S3 to register the resale of 380,000 shares. That is going to be some shares that were given to another entity in a private placement. They are registering them so that that company can sell those shares from time to time. That is some potential dilution, but only 380,000 shares. On August 1st, 2025, the company entered into a new contract with the CEO, increasing his compensation from $10,000 to $15,000 per month for a new annual rate of $180,000. And then it says on August 12th, the company acquired the Edge Data Center assets of Everythink Innovations Limited, and the company will issue 2 million restricted shares of common stock and pay an additional $150,000 upon certain conditions being met. I think there was a note that I read up earlier in this 10Q that they paid some of those shares right away, and the remainder of those shares happen every 90 days or so for the next 12 months. So it is potential dilution, but it was not an immediate dilution of 2 million shares. It was a partial dilution. There will be more coming, but let's remind ourselves what the shares outstanding is on Nixxy. 20.1 million. I mean, that's a 10% dilution, so that is not insignificant. If we look at the chart here, just wrapping up with Nixxy, you can tell that because of all the dilution that they've done, and I can tell by the prices here on the chart, that they've done some reverse splits. Since the beginning of this year, this company's been in a free fall, trading at $6 in January, now trading at $1.77. And based on their financial results, I can see why the stock price is going down. Looking at that dilution tracker chart, that also tells me a lot. The amount of shares that they're issuing, that's going to drive the price down. And I would say there will be more dilution coming to Nixxy, and it will happen in relatively short order. What does that mean? Look, I can't give you an exact time frame, but within the next 90 days would not surprise me one bit. If you have any questions or comments about Nixxy, leave them for me down below. Thank you for watching. I am Tony Denaro, and I will see you on the next video.
So you